Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humanoids of all descriptions, welcome to the channel. I'm Cap, this is my place. It's time for a monthly cooking tutorial. This month, we're doing a pork butt. So that's butt with two T's. It doesn't come from the hog's hindquarter. It's actually the shoulder blade of the pig. The pork butt contains, on the one hand, a good deal of connective tissue, so it goes low and slow cooking, barbecue style, but on the other hand, they frequently contain, well, usually contain a good amount of intramuscular fat, so they remain nice and juicy. And this month, what we're going to do is pulled pork. As always, we're going to start with equipment and utensils. Then we'll go over the ingredients, we'll cook, and I'll show you the finished product. This recipe is a little different. Because of the amount of connective tissue in the shoulder, in my opinion, it needs to sit for a while in the fridge to allow the connective tissue to break down in advance of it going into, in this case, the oven. I assure you it's safe. I've done a good dozen or dozen and a half of these. I've never made anybody sick. As long as you maintain safe food handling practices, so far as the temperatures go and cleanliness in your kitchen, you should be fine. So let's get started. First thing that you're going to need is a cookie sheet and a cooling rack. You're going to need, for the cook, wide, thick aluminum foil, and for the part where it sits in the fridge, you're going to need cling wrap. You're going to need whatever gloves you use for the oven. You're going to need nitrile gloves, not only for the prep, but for when you transfer from the fridge into the foil, you're going to need gloves again. Now, because the shoulder blade sometimes comes in the meat, some people have good luck leaving the shoulder blade in during the cook. I've not had good luck with that. It always somehow manages to puncture the foil wrapper, and then I end up with a terrible mess in my oven. So I'm going to remove the shoulder blade, and we'll show you some of how I do that. One of the things that means is you're going to need knives, and I mean more than one knife. And not the big ones that we usually use, small ones. I've got 5 knives here, and we're probably going to use all 5 of them. There's a lot to cut, and again, because there's connective tissue and there's a bone to move around, we need to work slowly and carefully. The shoulder blade is basically 2 triangles. It's a triangular shaped bone, but it's also got a ridge running down the middle of it. And so that can make it difficult to simply cut it out. You have to work one side, then the other, as close to the bone as you can. If you see anything like a blood clot or anything that looks like it might be a gland, there shouldn't be a gland in there, but if you see something that just looks funny, doesn't look appetizing, don't be shy. Cut it right out. Let me shut the camera off, move this stuff aside, and I'll show you the ingredients, and we'll start cutting. All right, we're back. So, ingredient time. First thing is going to be some of this nice light olive oil. You don't want the green stuff. It's going to have a very heavy, much more bitter taste. This is going to be nice and light. we're going to need garlic. We're going to stuff this pork butt full of cloves of garlic, and they need to be frozen in order to get the thing stuffed properly. The next thing we're going to need, your choice, whether you buy it in the store or you make it at home, your choice of dry rub. When I make dry rub, I don't use any salt, and I also don't use any sugar. I find that although there's no salt, the meat doesn't dry out. I don't have a problem with that, and of course, because there's no sugar, the sugar doesn't burn. Once you burn something that's got sugar in it, there's no fixing that flavor. The whole thing's got to go in the garbage. Now, finally, the star of the show this week. This is a pork bone-in pork butt. This particular pork butt is $17.70, and a butt that size should feed a family of 4 or 5 and have leftovers, or obviously feed you and your housemates for the better part of a week. As I said, this time we're going to do pulled pork. However, if you buy it bone out, you can slice it up and make pork steaks out of it and put it on the grill. Let me grab a knife, cut the bag open, and we'll start cutting. The other cookie sheet's in place, and it's going to help contain any juice that starts leaking. I'm not going to make you watch the entire process. There is plenty of juice. So as you can see here, there's a nice fat cap. We're going to leave that alone. We're going to do our cutting from the other side. You can see the bone is here. It's got a hollow, and it comes out on the other side over here. I'm just kind of feeling around to find the ends of it. This can be an awkward piece of meat to work with. So I'm going to take this end here, and I'm just going to kind of insert the tip of my knife, and I'm going to work it along. I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm going to let the knife do the work. And there we go. We've already started to expose. Here we are. Just kind of use the tip and feel your way along the bone. Okay, everybody, second knife. Okay, everybody, let me get out of my own light here. So this is the pork shoulder blade. This is the ridge where the pig's rotator cuff would attach. And this would, if I could get it to not puncture the foil, would give us a lot of good flavor. But unfortunately, I've never been able to get that to work. I'm going to get another set of gloves. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to shove the knife all the way into the meat. I'm going to take, this is probably going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll do 6 cloves of garlic on this butt. I've got a hole here. I'm going to take that clove of garlic and I'm going to just stick it all the way in to the bottom of that hole. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute and I'm going to lay out my plastic wrap and then I'm going to turn you guys back on. I'm going to rub this down real well with a generous amount of olive oil. I'm going to use that not only for flavor, I'm going to add a little bit of fat to the outside so as the meat draws in the olive oil, it's also going to draw in the flavors from my dry rub. And I'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Alright, we're back. I'm wearing 2 gloves on each hand. I'm going to start here with some olive oil, like I said, and I'm going to spread the oil around. And the olive oil is going to partially make up for cutting out that bone. So don't forget the sides. Make sure you get both sides of this flap that we ended up creating when we cut the bone out. Be generous when you put your rub on the meat. And on the one hand, yeah, you want to taste the meat, but this is a big piece of meat and it's going to take plenty of rub. Now, I've done that side. I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it over and put it on the plastic wrap. And now I'm going to discard that glove. I still have a dirty hand, but I've got a clean hand. Mechanic's trick. Okay. What we're going to do now, I'm going to take the plastic wrap and I'm going to go tightly because I want to make sure I get the air out of this package. Alright, so here's our pork butt. It's wrapped in about 5 layers of plastic wrap, maybe 6. There's not going to be any air getting on it. It's not going to oxidize, and there's not going to have any bacteria start on it because not only the plastic wrap has got it covered up, but also we have it covered in olive oil. So there's today's date. Hopefully you could see that, and I'll show you that again when we pull this out of the fridge. So I'll be back with you in a couple of days. And we're back. Just for a bit of reference, and hopefully things will cooperate and focus for you. Here we go. Here's today's date. I hope you could see that. I've taken the start of the show here out of the refrigerator. Today is now Monday, it's in the morning, and we're going to put that in the oven. We have to talk about that for a little bit. Normally when we talk about cooking pork, we talk about cooking it to the minimum safe temperature, and we don't worry about going any farther than that. So, depending on the age of the website that you land on, you're going to see a minimum safe cooking temperature for pork of either 160 degrees for an older website or for fresher information 140. Thing is, we're doing pulled pork. So what that means is we have to put this in the oven at 225 degrees, 225 Fahrenheit, for 2 hours for every pound this piece of meat weighs. Why is that? Well, what we're doing is we're breaking down what's called collagen. And no doubt if you watch TV or the internet, you see commercials for products that increase, or at least allege to increase, the collagen in your skin. Well, what's collagen? Collagen is a protein that goes in between the cells to hold in the connective tissue to hold them together. Think of it as when you see guys interlace two phone books and then you can't pull them apart. That friction that keeps the phone books together is the collagen in connective tissue. It's what holds the muscle fibers together. Cooking it to 225 for that amount of time causes the collagen to break down, and that removes that friction. So when we go to do the pulled pork, the fibers will just come apart. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in foil completely. I'm going to discard the plastic wrap. If you want to at this point, you can add more dry rub. And you also have the opportunity at this point, if you want, to add a little bit more olive oil, which I usually do. It's always better to add a little bit more fat than risk having it come out dry, although I've never had that problem take place. And the other thing you need to remember, if you recall, I pointed out that this piece of pork butt has a nice fat cap on it. That fat cap is going to go on top. So, gloves, foil, your cookie tray. If you want, and you have time because you're going to leave this in the fridge for about a week, get a couple of those disposable foil baking pans, and you can put this in there if you're afraid you're going to spill. So, I'm going to go ahead and doctor this up. Put it in the oven, and I'll bring you guys back when it's time to do the pull. So meanwhile, I'll see you in 8 hours or so, and I'm going to do laundry and get a haircut. Bye. Well, it's been 8 hours. Shut the oven off. Before we go any further, I'm going to pull this out and put it on the counter in this tray, but it needs to rest before we do anything. Just like if you're going to cut up steak or anything like that, the meat has to rest. It lets it reabsorb the juices a bit. Then we can go ahead and pull this apart. So we need our oven mitts, whatever you use with the oven. I use my fireplace gloves. I'm going to pull this out. In 20 minutes I'm going to turn the camera back on, and we're going to get started on this so you can see what it looks like. Alright, as you can see, I put this in a tray. It did leak somewhat. So I'm going to open this up. Not a catastrophic leak, but not something you want running off your kitchen counter onto the floor. Let me take you guys off the tripod. This is what you're going to be looking at. One of the ways we can tear this up is with the use of tongs, or you can put on some sort of insulated glove underneath some nitrile gloves and use your fingers. Remember, this is still very hot. We did have this up to 225 degrees and there's a lot of liquid here. So let's get started with this. Back momentarily. All right, so all the collagen is out of this, and you wouldn't be able to do this with your hands or with tongs if we hadn't gone and broken that collagen down. So we're just going to kind of pick through this until it's all torn up. And I'll bring you back when this job is done, because there's no reason for you to sit there watching me do this. I'll be right back. So here we are. This is our pulled pork. You can leave it in a little longer per pound, not less. You can shred it up more, or you can shred it up less. As you can see, all of that seasoning that we put on the outside of this piece of meat has been absorbed, cooked into it. The only thing we're going to find at this point is a couple of cloves of garlic, or the remnants of it. And now it's time for me to have my dinner. We'll see you next week with another video, and next month we'll be back in the kitchen for something else. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye-bye.